Welcome to another edition of Test Drive Diecast. Tonight I'm going to be reviewing for you two Russian model cars on a scale of 1/4, both made by a company called Moskvich. The model on the left is the model 426, model on the right is the model 2141 Aleko. So we'll look at the oldest one first. Moskvich 426 is the estate version of the Moskvich 412, which itself is a development of the original Moskvich 408, which was introduced in 1964. The car was updated throughout its life, made by various manufacturers. Started out with MZMA, and then the company changed its name to AZLK, which is roughly translated as Leninist Youth Manufacturing Organisation, something along those lines. And then the company became 080 Moskvich. The car was also produced by a company called IJ as well. It did have some minor modifications. Front fascia was different, and they also produced a combi estate version, which has a slightly more sloping back than this one. The car is produced right in its basic shape from 1964 right up to 2001. So another very long running design, produced for almost as long as the Mini in this country, but not many people know about this car. The car was briefly sold in the UK in the early 1970s, but it did receive a lot of negative press for very poor, often dangerous handling, and the importer, I think it was Satra Motors, went back to the drawing board and decided to import the Lada instead, which was a much better idea. So this car is pretty much unknown outside of Russia. So as I say, this one is the 426. It's the update of the 408, so square headlights is the most visible difference. So the model itself, is quite an old model. It's different from other Russian models insofar as that it only has an opening bonnet, and it's actually a very, very nice model indeed. The details very fine. It's not chunky like the Gaz Volga that I reviewed a short while ago. So just focus in on the front. So the grille and bumper, these are metal chromed pieces. It's quite a heavy model. Very accurately done. I remember my friend, the same friend that had a Volga back in the 1980s, a model Volga. I'd never seen one before. He also had a Moskvich. It was a saloon version, and it was powder blue, and I remember being really quite impressed by the model. Far better than any of the Corgis or Matchbox Super Kings that I had at the time. And I'd always wanted one since then. I got myself a saloon version some time ago. It was in the Aeroflot livery, the Russian Airlines. I sold that one on. I got this one basically because it was better condition. Move round to the side of the model. Lovely wheels on the model there. They're correct for the Moskvich. This particular one is in mint condition. It's probably one of my best condition model Russian cars that's come to me. Quite a basic interior, not much to see. It's plain white. Move on to the back. It was actually one of the last cars in production to have tail fins, so it's quite unusual in that respect. And I don't know if this camera's going to pick this up, but very faintly the tooling was probably getting a bit worn out at the time this model was produced. You probably can't see that it does have a Moskvich script on there. You can maybe just faintly make that out. Again, chrome bumpers there, metal. It's got open bonnet. Not really much to see, we'll just tip it upside down so we can see inside it. There's not much to see. Not much to see in there at all, really. Just a few chromed pieces. Piece of intricate wire hinge there, which is a good touch. And it all opens and closes nicely. The base plate, quite simply detailed. One of the things I always look for in a Russian model is to have as little Western alphabet as possible. So you'll see here it says Moskvich 426, and that underneath says made in USSR, although it says it in English there as well, 1/4, and that says model. Good solid model, large flathead screw there, some good detailing of the basic underside. A very pleasing model. It's also got suspension as well, which in some of them it can settle over time, but this one has been absolutely fine so far. Lovely model. I do like the real car as well. Move on to the box. This is a generic box for this age of Russian cars, quite an old box. A lot of them came in the same one as you'll see with the ALEKO next. Some nice colouring on it there. It has more English in it. Made in USSR, it's got the old Russian flag. And there's the Russian there. Go on to the back, got some images of the car. This, although I said it's a generic box, that's correct for this car, although the model shown is a late model one. It's a 1970s one. Quite like this picture here. A summary image shows off the lines of the car quite well. The 1500cc engine that was in the car was copied from BMW. And if you go onto YouTube and you hear one of these cars being driven, it's got quite an unusual sound. It almost sounds like a two-stroke for some reason. Very basic engine, very popular in our home country, and there's still quite a few, because I produced up to 2001. I think there's still quite a few going around. So that is the Moskvich 426, and it's produced this shape, produced various manufacturers from 1964 right up to 2001. Move on to the next car now. Now in 1986, felt that the Moskvich model that I've just reviewed was getting about out of date, so they introduced the Moskvich Aleko. This was front wheel drive hatchback, and it's quite advanced, polycarbonate bumpers, sort of a European shape. Now when I say European shape, if you're familiar with French cars at all, Anglo-French cars, there is some speculation about whether they did it on their own or not. Some sources say they did, some sources say they copied it from the Talbot Alpine or Chrysler Simca 1308 series. There's various debate whether they did or they didn't. I think it's largely irrelevant because they made it their own. I think the Russians, for a start, although it's front wheel drive like the Talbot Alpine, the engine in this is north-south. Gearbox behind the engine, whereas in the Talbot Alpine it's transverse. So a little bit look at this one. This was produced from 1986 up to 2002. The Moskvich company went bankrupt in 2002 and was finally dissolved in 2006. The factory lay abandoned for years with half-finished body shells everywhere. Renault have reopened some of the factory to produce their own models. But it's a bit of a sad story for the company. But when you look at the cars, particularly on YouTube, the quality of them is just awful compared to Western models or anything that Renault could produce. But I think they've got loads of character, and so does this model. Being a later model, slightly chunkier but more detailed. I think the front looks quite like a Renault 18 rather than a Simca or Talbot Alpine. Brown bumpers, I like that. Nice separate headlight lenses. Move down to the side, it's got beige wheel trims, which is unusual. Lots of beige and brown in this model. Separate door handles, good level of detail on this, quite chunky. It's good. Plastic window surrounds, separate window surrounds. separate lenses for the rear lights. Let's see if we can get the camera to pick up the interior. Doors don't fit very well, as you would expect. Try and focus on that there. So lots of different colours used: black dashboard, brown carpets, beige seats. Quite a lot of effort's gone into making that quite detailed. I like these doors as well. They've got the separate trim panel that forms the frame as well. There's quite a lot of care gone into making these models detailed. They have tried well. The engine's quite basic. You can see that there is the engine block. Try and focus in on that. Might be a bit close, we'll just come a little bit further out. There we go. That's the engine block, and just there, behind the headlight, right there, that'll be the radiator. And there's various other ancillaries as well. So a basically detailed engine, but it does the job. Underneath, so we have scale 1/4, there's English there, made in USSR. This is a plastic base, so the quality's come down a lot since the one I showed you earlier. And then on the side there, you can just see Moskvich 2141. I like the spare wheel carrier being detailed there as well. The doors don't fit well, but everything's all okay. Again, this model's mint condition. Box not quite such good condition, but it's exactly the same as the previous Moskvich 426 box. It's a pity it doesn't have a photograph of the correct car in the back. I think these Russian models, they just come in whatever box the factory seems to have had at the time. I've got had a couple of Lada models in my time. I had a Samara and it was a Riva that was on the back, and then I've got a model Riva and it's the correct Riva that's on the back, so quite patchy. So if you're looking to buy either of these models, they're becoming a bit more sought after, these genuine Russian 1/4 scale models. You could probably be looking to pay for ones in this condition anything up to about £30. However, there are cheaper 1/43 scale ones out there. D'Agostini produced quite a few, they commissioned quite a few over the years, which are probably better detailed, but the quality still is patchy. But I personally prefer these ones that were out at the time that the real models were produced. The other thing to watch, as with all Russian models, is make sure that they don't have metal fatigue. The alloys can sometimes have a poor mixture, and it basically means that it adopts a grainy, bulging appearance, and the car eventually turns to dust. Make sure that if you're looking at one in the metal, that it doesn't have that. Although it's worth the gamble, because I really do quite enjoy owning these. If you're interested in Russian cars at all as well, there's a good book by Andy Thompson. He covers every Soviet car right from right up to 1945, post-war, right up to 1991, the fall of the Soviet Empire. So that's a good read as well, and it'll tell you basically everything you need to know about these cars. So that is the Moskvich 426 and the Moskvich 2141 ALEKO. Any other questions, just leave a comment, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye now.